Straight ahead on Law and Crime Daily. Inside the minds of the Doomsday duo.
Her idea was for her to get rid of the zombies. The idea was for her thought she had the power to cast it out. You know, she'd say in the name of whatever and with her power.
Shocking new police interviews try to untangle the twisted web of Chad and Lori Vallow Daybell. Plus,
and after a few short hours, Dylan was gone. Murdered at the hands of this man.
Mark Redwine's fate is sealed. The hefty sentence dealt out to the Colorado man who killed his 13-year-old son. And later, Mark Gooch's father takes the stand.
Well, he wasn't of a converted heart. And at that point, I don't think he felt the need for it.
Why he says his son turned away from the Mennonite faith his parents share. Law and Crime Daily covering court cases from coast to coast. Welcome everyone to Law and Crime Daily. I'm Brian Buckmeyer along with Terry Austin. A look inside the mind of the so-called Doomsday duo, Chad and Lori Vallow Daybell. Newly released police interviews show detailed accounts from friends and family leading up to the murders of many who were close to the Daybell couple. Law and Crime Daily's Sierra Gillespie brings us the shocking accounts recorded just this year.
Brian, together the Doomsday duo weaved an intricate web of stories, complete with multiple mysterious deaths, missing persons, and strong religious convictions. Phrases like evil spirits, zombies, and death visions hardly scratch the surface of newly released police video.
So I remember that they were saying that Tammy had become a zombie.
It's a murder defense you don't often hear. Lori Vallow Daybell's former sister-in-law claiming she and husband Chad Daybell believed his first wife Tammy was a zombie.
They were saying that Tammy was supposed to die on her trip to Utah. She was supposed to have he had seen it in a vision that she was going to die in a car accident in the way there, or something was going to happen that she was going to pass away. Okay. And then when she didn't pass away, then what they were saying was that she actually did pass away, but what happened was that she was taken over by an evil spirit, and then they were that she had become a zombie.
Zulema Pastenes, who was married to Daybell's brother Alex Cox, says that wasn't the first time she heard the theory.
They said the same thing about Charles, right? And then Charles ended up being shot, right? I'm thinking, okay, you guys are not trying to say that you guys are going to do something physically to people who are, who are turning into zombies.
Lori Daybell's former best friend Melanie Gibb says she heard a similar story.
She kept saying, "Oh, he's getting broken down. He's getting broken down. He's getting weaker. He's getting weaker. We're doing things to help, get him weaker, get his, spirit out of his body," kind of a thing.
In July 2019, Daybell's then-husband Charles Vallow was shot and killed by her brother Alex Cox, who claimed self-defense. Lori's daughter, Tylee Ryan, was interviewed by police that same day, claiming to defend her mother from Charles Vallow.
Yeah, he was walking towards my mom, and I just didn't want him to do anything, so I kind of just stuck out the bat. I just stuck it out to be like, keep your distance.
Just 2 months later, Tylee and her brother JJ would go missing, followed the next month by the mysterious death of Chad Daybell's then-wife, Tammy. In April, Gibb told investigators Lori would cast out evil spirits and claimed she and Chad Daybell knew when someone was affected.
She's starting to question if he's seeing somebody else.
Lori was.
Or Tammy was. That's what she
right.
would tell. So that's how they knew the evil spirits were in her.
Just 2 weeks after Tammy Daybell's death, Chad and Lori Daybell got married in Hawaii. In December 2019, Lori's brother Alex Cox dies of what is ruled a pulmonary blood clot. In June 2020, the bodies of Tylee and JJ are discovered buried on Chad Daybell's property. Both now face multiple charges, including first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder.
Now, as we've reported on Law and Crime Daily, Chad Daybell's legal team is working to move his trial out of Fremont County, Idaho. arguing a fair and impartial jury cannot be found there. Meanwhile, Lori Vallow Daybell's case is put on hold as she is declared mentally unfit to stand trial. For Law&Crime Daily, I'm Sierra Gillespie.
Thank you, Sierra. On top of these newly released interviews, there is still some speculation as to how Chad Daybell's first wife, Tammy, died. In October 2019, she mysteriously died in her sleep. An autopsy was never performed until after she was embalmed and buried. While East Idaho News reports the cause of death is asphyxiation, death investigator Joseph Scott Morgan tells Law&Crime Daily about his thoughts on the autopsy.
The big problem here is that if she's been embalmed, I don't know that there's any way to perform effective toxicology here, because remember, all of the blood is taken out of the body in embalming. The body is infused with embalming fluid. It's a replacement, and that goes to preservation. So people say, well, why can't they just toxicology and look for any of these agents? I understand why folks would want that, but the problem is that all that stuff's gone, Anjanette. It's gone. So right now, if in fact this is true, one of the things I'm leaning toward, at least right now, unless they have other investigative information, is the idea that they've seen something, some physical manifestation.
Joining us today is Texas District Judge Brandon Birmingham and Terry Austin. Judge, we're hearing a lot more about these doomsday beliefs. Do you think these texts further the prosecution's theory as to why the Daybells allegedly killed JJ and Tylee, or are they something else?
I think that you're seeing the background or the development of what's going to probably turn into an insanity plea. These sort of odd manifestations of their imagination about zombies and ridding the world of evil and all of that has been used before to set up an insanity defense. Whether or not it's going to carry the day depends a great deal on the actions actually during the crime, and whether or not, and this is going to be really important, whether or not actions were taken up that prove that they knew the difference between right and wrong. Because one thing to say you believe in zombies and all that, but if you believe in zombies and you're trying to rid the world of evil, then you would be proud of it. You wouldn't want to cover it up. And if you are, I bet you the prosecution is going to say, you know the difference between right and wrong.
Absolutely. Now, Terry, how is this new information involving Alex Cox and Tammy Daybell giving greater light to the Doomsday saga that we've been following for so long?
It's becoming clearer and clearer, if it's not already clear to everyone who's been watching this case, that these deaths are not coincidences. The fact that we have Charles, who was shot and killed in July 2019, then in September, JJ and Tylee disappear. Their remains are found that next June, of course. Then in October, Tammy Daybell mysteriously died. Looks like from her autopsy, it was asphyxiation. And then in December, Alex mysteriously dies. These deaths are not coincidences. And the fact that Lori and Chad are talking about people turning into zombies, that also leads to the conspiracy theory. So there's a lot of information coming out about these deaths.
Yeah, and with conspiracy theories and the concept of lack of mistake, maybe, I don't know, we see a lot of these other allegations and a lot of these facts from about Tammy, about Alex Cox, and about other situations get pulled into the JJ and Tylee case. This could be an astounding case, a crazy case, maybe, I don't know, maybe as big as the Robert Durst case with all the different facets, but of course we'll continue to watch and see how this develops and give you the updates as the Doomsday Duo couple cases continue. Thank you both. Still ahead on Law&Crime Daily, a father called to the stand as his son is on trial for murder. We bring you the latest developments in the trial of Arizona versus Mark Gooch. But first, a disturbing case reaches its conclusion. A Colorado judge hands down the sentence for the convicted child killer Mark Redwine. All that and more after this.
Hi, this is Dan Abrams with exciting news for all of our Law and Crime followers on YouTube. You can now get the live Law and Crime Network with YouTubeTV for all of your daily live trial coverage, legal news, expert analysis, and original true crime programs. Subscribe to YouTubeTV today and then locate Law and Crime in the channel guide. And for only $1.99 a month, you can add the network to your bundle. Watch Law and Crime every day with YouTubeTV. We put you in the jury box.
Welcome back. A sentence more than a decade in the making is finally served as child murderer Mark Redwine is given nearly 50 years behind bars. In July, a Colorado jury found Redwine guilty of the murder of his 13-year-old son, Dylan. The jury deliberated for only 6 hours. In November 2012, Dylan was on a court-mandated trip to see his father over the Thanksgiving holiday. He vanished that weekend, and his remains were discovered 7 months later. Prosecutors claim that Redwine killed his son after Dylan confronted him about disturbing photos of his father dressed in women's lingerie and eating feces out of a diaper. The defense tried to instill doubt that a wild animal could have killed a teenager, but that argument fell short for the jury. Redwine appeared in court on Friday, where the judge sentenced him to 48 years in prison with 5 years of parole served concurrently. Before the sentence was handed down, the district attorney gave a powerful speech.
The harm that Mark Redwine inflicted on his own child, his own family, and this community can never be understated. He stole this bright, beautiful boy's life from him and from us all. But, Your Honor, that's only the beginning of the terrible acts that Mark Redwine perpetrated. And in the aftermath of Dylan's brutal murder, we see what Mark Redwine is truly made of, the person that he truly is. Mark Redwine killed Dylan in an unspeakable act of violence, knowingly murdered him. Dylan's skull bore a fracture so powerful and severe, it would have killed him.
Let's bring back Judge Birmingham and co-host Terry Austin to break down the sentencing of Mark Redwine. Terry, did you see any mitigating factors that could have reduced Mark Redwine's sentence by even just a couple years?
I didn't see many, and neither did the judge. He only spent a few seconds talking about those mitigating factors. He said, of course, there was no criminal history. He said that even the defendant lost his own son, despite the fact that he was convicted of killing his own son. And he said that his behavior behind bars was good. But I've got to say, he went through those aggravating factors and ultimately gave him the maximum sentence. And he even said to the attorney, sit down, even if you have an objection, I don't want to hear it, put it in writing. Well done, Judge.
All right, Judge Birmingham, the thing I love about this show, I get to actually ask a judge this question. He got the max, 48 years. Looking at the case thus far, what facts do you think led this judge to that decision?
The brutal and violent nature, the fact that this is an innocent victim, the fact that it's a child, all weigh heavily in, and plus the subsequent acts of the defendant who, as according to the news articles and the video that I saw, the judge said, I have seen no remorse in you. And true contrition is a mitigating factor. And if it's not there when the proof is absolutely overwhelming that you committed the crime, that's a big strike against you as well.
Absolutely. I think the judge got it right here. If there was a time to give the max for sentencing, I think the facts here lended themselves to that. So it made sense and all around. Thank you both. Moving on to Law and Crime's weekly podcast, Cop Tales and Cocktails. On this week's episode, Sergeant Sean Sticks Larkin sits down with retired NYPD officer Vic Ferrari, who tells the host he knew he wanted to be an officer from the time he was just 5 years old.
I grew up in the early 70s, mid 80s, and I begged my parents as a little boy to take me to see The French Connection, 7-Ups, Dirty Harry, and I was in the Rockford Files and all that other stuff, and I knew I wanted to be an NYPD detective as a little boy. And my parents were like, yeah, that's great. But after a while, they started seeing like that was the only thing I wanted to do. I took the police exam at like 19. I got hired at 21, and I went through the New York City Police Academy, and it was a great 20-year ride. I got no regrets. It was the most fun I ever had in my life.
You can listen to Cop Tales and Cocktails on Apple Podcasts or wherever you find your podcasts. Coming up on Law and Crime Daily, the father of accused Mennonite murderer takes the stand to testify about his son, what he had to say in his son's defense. Plus, a second murder trial is underway for Markeith Lloyd. Will he face another guilty conviction? All that and more next. Welcome back. The manhunt for missing fugitive Brian Laundrie moves forward as police in Florida deny reports that a campsite belonging to Laundrie has been recovered. Northport police confirmed to Law and Crime Daily there was no campsite found that belonged to Brian Laundrie. Searches for the 23-year-old have been ongoing for weeks, mainly in the Florida Reserve, where he told his parents he was going hiking. Laundrie's parents confirmed this week that the family left his family home on September 13th without a phone or wallet. Previous reports stated Laundrie left the home on Tuesday, September 14th. Laundrie is wanted in connection with the death of Gabby Petito for the unlawful use of a debit card after Petito's death. On to other top legal news. An emotional juror is excluded by the judge in the federal trial against Elizabeth Holmes. This, as a former grocery store chain CEO testifies Theranos didn't hold up its end of the bargain in a $300 million partnership. In a rare move this week, Judge Edward Davila excuses a Buddhist juror who says her religion hinders her from deciding the fate of the former Theranos CEO. Juror number 4 told the judge she felt guilty if her decision could put Holmes behind bars for a, quote, long time. After that, former Safeway CEO Steve Bird took the stand, saying Theranos' blood testing machine raised red flags and what would be a failed partnership between the two companies. Bird testified that Theranos staff often missed deadlines and gave little information about progress, as Safeway poured more than $300 million into clinics in hundreds of grocery stores across the country. Holmes faces 12 counts of fraud after claiming her now-defunct company Theranos would revolutionize blood testing. Tests later revealed the devices had many issues and produced varying results. And in Florida, Markeith Lloyd's murder trial is just beginning 4 years after the crime was committed. Markeith Lloyd is charged with the murder of Lieutenant Deborah Clayton. This will be Lloyd's second time potentially facing the death penalty after a previous conviction for the 2016 murder of his ex-girlfriend. The jury recommended life in prison without parole for that conviction. Prosecutors say that Lloyd gunned down Clayton after she attempted to arrest him for Dixon's murder. Police spent 9 days searching for him before finding him in an abandoned house. After more than a year's delay due to the pandemic, trial began on Friday with jury selection. Lloyd's defense team plans to argue that he was acting in self-defense the night of the shooting, claiming that Clayton fired first. The defense also says that they plan to claim insanity. When we come back, both sides rest in the Mennonite murder trial, what the defendant's father had to say when he took the stand before the defense concluded their case. Welcome back. Closing arguments wrap up and the jury is out to deliberate the verdict in the Mennonite murder trial out of Arizona. Mark Gooch is charged with the 2020 murder of Mennonite Sunday school teacher Sasha Krause after she was found dead in a forest outside Flagstaff, Arizona. Krause was last seen a month before in her village near Farmington, New Mexico. At the time, Gooch was stationed at an Air Force base in Phoenix. But cell phone records show he drove to Krause's village the day she went missing, and his cell phone pinged near the area where her body was later found. Krause's cause of death was determined to be blunt force trauma and a gunshot wound to the head. The prosecution argues Gooch has a disdain for the Mennonite community after being raised in the faith. The defense argues Gooch approached the Mennonite village to reconnect with his faith. The last witness called to testify was Gooch's father, who practices the Mennonite faith in Wisconsin. He told jurors he did not agree with Gooch's choice to join the military and later told the prosecution why he believed his son didn't practice Mennonite faith.
In the military in there, we highly discouraged him joining the military. He decided to do that, and then I'd have to look at the records, probably 2018, 2019.
And the effort to persuade him not to join the military was religious-based?
Yes.
Once in the Air Force, did you embrace Mark's decision?
I never, it's like this. Everyone has to make their own way in life. He'd made the decision. He had to fulfill his obligation. At that point, we no longer discussed it in that regard because he was there. He'd already signed the papers. He had to be there for the 4 years.
The defendant, Mark, he doesn't have a converted heart. What is a converted heart?
What the scripture says is you've turned from darkness to light. What it says is you've decided to follow the Lord with your entire heart. and what the tenets of the scripture would call for.
Okay. So he had not yet turned from darkness to light.
Right.
All right, Judge, with the case all but done, do you think the prosecution did enough to eliminate any reasonable doubt?
This case is a great lesson in what I call reciprocal convergence, or when you take different facts and you see how they tie together. You have the .22 caliber rifle, you've got the cell phone, you've got the text messages, the cell phone towers, and then you have this anti-Mennonite motive that he expressed, and all of that fits. If you consider one of those compartmentalized, well, maybe they're not persuasive, but combined together, the prosecution did a very good job of pointing out how combined together they make a very strong case.
Absolutely. Now, Terry, what did Gooch's father provide in terms of reasonable doubt, or do you think the defense is already thinking about lessening a potential sentence with this testimony?
I actually think the father did not help the defense at all. He was very stoic. He showed very little emotion. It was clear that he was very strict in raising his 7 children. One of the things he said was the television is a bunch of filth and they don't want to bring that in. So I think that at the end of the day, when he mentioned that Mark didn't have a converted heart and that he had not gone from the darkness to the light, that actually hurt the defense, and the prosecution used that as a theme in its summation. So I think they should have left the father off the stand altogether.
Absolutely, probably a misstep by the defense there, but thank you, Judge, and thank you, Terry. And thank you for joining us here on Law and Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.